all. Welcome to Improving Series Tomorrow's Technology Today. I would like to introduce Scott Poulin. Scott is the Director of Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence at Improving. Throughout his industry experience, including transportation, finance, nonprofit, and healthcare, he has developed a wide range of skills where he considers himself a full-stack software engineer specializing in back-end systems. Being always curious, his passions are primarily machine learning and artificial intelligence, but he's no stranger to data engineering, data analytics, quantum computing, quantum cryptography, and enterprise architecture, and astrophysics, because that's always awesome to learn. As an improver, his goal is to sharpen and grow his current skill set while providing maximum benefit and ROI, very important to consider to companies, teams, and clients. Speaking of that, today Scott is going to talk about how to thoughtfully maximize your AI journey with a discussion about roadmaps, use cases, platforms, and how to deal with the many challenges that you may encounter in your AI-driven future. Take it away, Scott.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Scott Poulin here. Happy to be talking today about some AI roadmaps and high-value use cases and how that kind of affects enterprise transformation. So we'll jump right into it. So overview, we're going to go over those AI roadmaps, use cases, some AI and ML implementation strategies that follow those aspects, and then also kind of talking about how those driving organizational change with that AI, navigating data challenges at scale as well. For some of you, you may be familiar with this aspect of the AI ML maturity roadmap. It just kind of talks about this aspect of going from introducing AI into your organization and bringing it to where it is transforming how you do business on a day-to-day aspect. With inside of that, there are kind of these different areas to perceive those maturity levels at. Ad hoc being your lowest level, transformational being your highest. But with inside of that, growth, leadership, usability, scalability, governance, and automation are kind of those general scopes or themes that you can say, how are we doing in these areas? And we'll talk about how all of these apply together to effectively build out your future roadmap as to integrating AI, introducing that aspect to your business, and how to adopt it effectively to maximize the transformation with inside of your company. So to start off with, what does ad hoc maturity level kind of look at? You're just honestly scratching the surface of AI. You're just kind of getting simple use cases out the door. They're relatively short term, and they have relatively low ROI. So generally, you're looking at projects that take from 3 to 6 months, and they typically have no implementation behind them that's going to last maybe a year or so. So it just really depends on how that's built out. There's typically no coherent plan, and it's really done by individual contributors within inside of the company. There's no real leadership backing behind it. It's kind of done as almost like a specialty project that an individual comes to the table with. So the aspects inside of here and what this looks like from a growth perspective is individual contributors are learning from online resources. There is no aspect of AI education within inside of your company. You're not hiring any ML talent, you're not hiring any AI talent, and you're typically looking to third-party individuals to kind of cover that skills gap that you may not have. So leadership perspective, AI adoption is typically driven by individual contributors, so you don't typically have that executive buy-in at this level. AI solutions are typically geared towards individual problems instead of business goals themselves. So you're not seeing sustainable growth within inside of your business due to the AI solution that's out there. Accessibility, this just typically goes alongside of how easy is it within inside of your company to implement. And this kind of goes into that isolation of assets to individuals. So like you're not sharing new discoveries or AI ML technology amongst each other, and you're kind of in this isolation aspect, even from the data perspective as well. Or you could be at that point where you're constructing your scalable data solution, but it's not totally there yet to provide that ability and accessibility to the data to build these solutions. Sustainability, typically these solutions are deployed and they're only meant to serve up to a few customers here and there. It's not scaled to handle up to thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of individuals, depending on how it's deployed. And so it's really an introduction to the system, almost kind of proof of value type implementation. Governance, this just kind of goes alongside with how data itself is privately protected within inside of your system, but it typically only follows software engineering principles, which aren't all that different from machine learning engineering principles, but there's some nuances between them. And so like your data privacy only follows typically that software engineering principles. So growing into that next stage would be what you're looking to do to get out of this ad hoc aspect. Compute is typically not controlled. And what I mean by that is that whatever system that the individual goes into build their AI models in, they can just ad hoc create new deployments of servers to do models and create and build these systems with, which typically leads to a pretty high spending bill on your cloud technologies. So there's no governance around that. You're kind of losing the ROI that you would typically get out of your AI solutions. For automation aspects, you're looking at no automation that exists. Everything is ad hoc or manual. Somebody has to come into a computer, do some data processing, do some code, deploy it, and try to get it out there. And typically production models that are in production and they're in this maturity level of ad hoc will often cause high level or high risk outages, which can cost you money. So there's different things to kind of look at here. But this is kind of your introductory stage and understanding as to where do I fit into this maturity standpoint. From a strategic standpoint, you're really growing as a company and really investing into AI at that point. So from a leadership perspective, you have sponsorship either by senior leadership and have dedicated budget by your C-suite level. So having that in place kind of is like almost your foundation to ensure good progress of an AI roadmap. On top of that, you're starting to establish common machine learning patterns and practices. You're starting to have a centralized data warehouse or a unified data model to allow individuals to share common data meanings across ML projects. And then going into like your growth, you're starting to invest and hire into AI and ML staff, from data scientists, machine learning engineers, statisticians, you name it. You're starting to also look at structured training programs within inside of your company, how your company does AI and progress forward. You also may have a strategic partner and select them to provide this consulting service or specialized knowledge to grow. And then into this aspect of scalability, you're starting to use serverless type technology, service solutions as well, to kind of help with the aspects of ingestion or data processing, as well as training and deployment of machine learning models and AI solutions. Your solutions are typically pretty sustainable against like major usage and increase and decrease of resources based on incoming traffic as well. So it should be able to handle a lot of aspects. So you're able to scale to handling in the thousands to 100,000s of requests on your APIs themselves that interact with your machine learning models. I think the biggest one that stands out at the strategic level to me is your governance stage. So you have best practices implemented, you are investigating explainable AI, you have established an AI ethics board and standards, you have an AI model review board, all kind of coming together to centralize this aspect and ensuring the safety of your enterprise, company, business, you name it, and making sure that AI is used appropriately and help avoid problems with litigation or other aspects of that. Compute curation at this point is also controlled and monitored. That's like kind of honestly one of the biggest pain points I see with a lot of our customers is that when they start these AI initiatives, they kind of let people go wild and do whatever they need to get some sort of solution off the ground and implemented, which is great, but it kills pretty much all ROI that you effectively try to get out of that solution. And so having some sort of governance in place around your platform really helps to make sure that you see that ROI at the end of the tunnel. And then into that automation piece, you have like scheduled and event-driven data pipelines. You have some automated machine learning training and deployment pipelines. There's tracking, logging, monitoring, and notifications. So these are all major things that are typically seen within a strategic level individual to kind of understand as to where you're going next, and which is hopefully to this transformational stage. At this point, you're really making a huge difference within inside of your company itself by introducing kind of like this cross-functional teams, introducing machine learning engineers and data scientists into other aspects or business lines of business within inside of your company. You're hiring specialized AI and ML talent for more innovative projects. You're starting to partner with other organizations to help and create technical resources that expand not just for your company, but maybe other partners. Leadership has a really good understanding as to how every line of business has their own dedicated AI budget. And then on top of that, you may start to look into AI research teams. And then accessibility, data, AI, ML assets, they're available across the enterprise. There's collaboration pretty much across the enterprise, helping individuals understand all aspects of the business. How can we grow and be better from an AI perspective? And then scalability solutions can sustain larger number of users, both your platform in which you are building solutions, and then also the platform in which is hosted those solutions can sustain a tremendous amount of more users. We're talking in the millions scale. Governance, this is kind of the end of the governance pipeline, I would say, but there's a lot in here that kind of extends past this talk, I think. Here, you're just kind of introducing a lot of data privacy aspects that kind of bring you to the next level, understanding that aspect of least privilege access and making sure that individuals have access to what they should, but still not breaking down those collaboration barriers as well. You're also looking into fair machine learning systems that are being established. And what I mean by that is that your models are always fair to a general population and that they aren't being biased to any sort of issues that are coming up. And kind of more an enhanced model review system. So once you've established like that AI governing board who does reviews on models and their impact to the business, there's a legal counsel that's typically involved with that board, and understanding that, you start to introduce tools to help expedite those boards' ability to process more models. Because as you scale across your enterprise and you still have to go through this review board, that becomes almost a bottleneck. And so there is new tooling that's coming out. One that's kind of gaining popularity in the EU is called Quantify. Really great company. They have an awesome tooling suite that helps with specialized review of different types of changes that incur with inside of specialized industries. And they have a lot of automations to help with that review aspect of your models themselves. And then lastly, jumping into automation in this transformational aspects, you have something called continuous pipelines. So it's very similar in the aspects of CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. There's this thing now being introduced in the ML world called continuous training. And that what this means is that through a series of pipelines, I can go out and have new models deployed to our system more effectively, more quickly, based off of triggers of different events and various different thresholds. So utilizing enhanced monitoring and triggering to train and release those models kind of impacts that aspects of those continuous training pipelines themselves. And then into the aspects of systems to manage your AI and ML artifacts is honestly very key, going into code releases for rollback aspects and like even going into the aspects of version control. So that was a lot of information. Yeah, go ahead.
We did have a question pop up during that, and I was waiting for a pause. I think you pretty much answered it, but how does one move effectively from individual solutions to broader solutions?
Yeah, for sure. So that kind of goes into this aspect here of identifying how to build your own map. To be honest, it kind of follows these kind of 4 key steps. And so going through that, you have to have, like I said, the executive buy-in and have that vision to say, by that executive, that AI is going to help drive our business effectively. And how do you do that is by identifying with inside of the maturity model where you're at and being brutally honest with yourself. This is where we're at. Because if you lie to yourself a little bit, then you're starting to get into this area of where this one section of the maturity model is holding you back from extending into the next stage. So making sure you understand your data abilities, your talent abilities, your budget commitments, enterprise and department goals, having a clear understanding of all of that will help drive the understanding around where you're at in your AI maturity. And then you look at that and you say, okay, where do we want to be next? Based off of all of the different requirements that were labeled here, based off of those 6 different criteria, where do we want to be? not everybody has to be at the transformational level for all of those phases. For example, there are small companies who have systems that only serve 50,000 individuals. They don't need a scalable solution that's going to serve millions of individuals. So you have to really understand as to where should we be and where do we want to be and where do those aligned. And so after you have that, you kind of prioritize out of those requirements to effectively establish, okay, this is our guiding scope. And after you have that prioritization, look at your business goals and say, of these business goals, which ones should we execute first? And so that's honestly kind of your initiative to go through and select your different types of way of progressing from technology to technology. A lot of times it comes with either some sort of new implementation of solution and stepping back from, we always are looking for ROI, and we should do the aspect of building the supported solutions to enhance new potential opportunities that come our way. So for example, back in the day when we had developers that would go out and build these APIs and deploy them, all that, we didn't really have really good DevOps to effectively deploy that stuff. And so that's where DevOps kind of took reign and helped build out the CI/CD aspect and how do we release all that stuff. So AI is in that same kind of gray area first, where we're targeting so many different types of quick wins and how do we get this out fast, but we're not focusing on the underlying aspect of how do you deploy that more effectively. And so that's where eventually this will transition to in the next coming years is, okay, now we have all of these unsustainable solutions. How do we make them sustainable? And so this goes into the aspects of that platform, which we'll discuss here coming up. So hopefully that answered your question. So high value use cases. So for this, there are a number of different ways to identify high value use cases and how to select them out of that. There's a number of different criteria that go along with it, and what criteria matters most to you and your business kind of depends on your industry and target market. But that being said, these honestly are the 5 probably greatest options you can go with. I'll talk about the other ones as well. But from the starting point is a strategic alignment. There's a number of different key questions you kind of have to ask yourself when trying to identify your use cases. Like, does the use case support the company's long-term vision and objectives? Will it help achieve specific strategic goals like entering new markets, improving customer satisfaction? How does this use case fit into the organization's digital transformation journey as well? So those are all major key questions you really have to ask yourself when you're looking at specific use cases as they come down the pipeline. Business impact, key questions here are what's the financial value? Are there cost savings? Is there revenue generation? And is it actually going to improve efficiency or reduce waste or enhance a product by some means? And then from feasibility standpoint, key questions here, probably a little bit more obvious, is do we have the data necessary to even perform these actions to create this? Do we have to create a complex AI model, or is there a solution that's kind of off the shelf for us already? Are there existing AI platforms or tools that can help support this use case, or will significant investment be required? And then lastly, can organization realistically implement this use case given its current resource tools and talent? That's kind of like a big one that stands out for a lot of people. And then for ROI potential, key questions here: what is the estimated time frame for realizing ROI on this use case? I think this is one of the big things that are commonly missed when looking at use cases themselves, because people will think that, yeah, of course there's ROI here, but in what time frame are you realizing that, and is it actually worth it to do that? So one of the big key questions to keep in mind there. How do costs of implementing AI solutions compare to expected business benefits? So that's another big key question. And then having this aspect is a clear financial justification for it. Otherwise, you kind of lead this path of if you don't have a clear financial justification for it, and the ROI comes up negative, then you start to have that taste in your mouth about AI and implementing those projects, and then you start to become unwilling to go down that path until you're forced to. And then time to value. I think this is one of my favorite analysis for identifying use cases. How long will it take to implement the AI solution and see measurable results? This is one of the big analyses that we do with our clients to make sure that we actually see this kind of progression of success out of it. Because we've implemented solutions where the client came to us and said, hey, we want to implement this solution. And we had questions in the back of our mind whether or not it was actually going to generate value within a certain time frame. Unfortunately, at that point in time, it did not. And in the specific time frame they expected, eventually it did. But in the time frame that they expected, it didn't. And so they had, again, that kind of bad taste in their mouth about AI and whether or not they should implement it. And so it came down to this aspect of set your standards as to when do you want to see value from this. And if you don't see value from that specific use case in that time frame, don't consider it. So outside of that, there may be some other criteria that may be more likely that you use. So if you're more risk adverse in your industry or your business, risk reduction, probably something that you are looking to implement. And key questions inside of here is use case, will this use case reduce regulatory compliance risks, ensuring data privacy, reducing fraud? Does it help with identify and prevent potential operational failures or safety risks? So a bunch of different things inside of there. Some other major ones is technical innovation, customer-centric value, urgency and priority, scalability. So these are all major things that kind of help you identify those use cases and kind of going down that path. So going after that, so now we have a decent understanding of our AI roadmap.
Just before we move on, what general considerations should be made during the POC phase, proof of concept phase, to ensure the results align with production scenarios? For example, data set differences in POC versus prod.
There's two realms in how you kind of face this problem. So in a POC, you should have some sort of production data set ready for it. And so depending on where you are at in the maturity level scale, you can do this faster or slower. If you're at the strategic level, you most likely have some sort of system in place to kind of help with these POC implementations and production data integrations and to allow for faster POC involvement. But if you're not at that level, and you're strictly doing it at a POC and you're trying to test the feasibility of that actual solution, I would say production data is important to a certain degree, mostly because how you implement these projects should be from your most basic implementation first, and then you do a lot of iterating and testing on that solution until you get to the final part of the POC. The biggest thing about POC selection is that you're not trying to solve 100% of your problem. You should be aiming to solve at least 20, 10, maybe 30% of that. The biggest thing there is that if you're trying to solve 100% of a problem, you'll spend a lot of your time just spinning your wheels trying to get the perfect model to hit that. And then you won't meet that time to market aspect or time to value aspect. You can still see value even if you only solve 30% of the problem. So the biggest thing is I wouldn't say that involving production level data isn't something that you should focus on, is breaking down the problem you're trying to solve to find out what is that 10, 20, and 30% problem that we can solve faster and know how that integrates back in. AI and ML implementation strategies. So we are at the point where we've effectively decided on an AI roadmap. And then we have also gone through and identified some high value use cases. Okay, where do we go now? So now we look at implementation strategies. So there's a number of different routes you can take for here. So depending on your use case, business tooling implementations might be your go-to. And what this is kind of AI-enabled knowledge bases or toolings like Microsoft 365 Copilot, Google Gemini, or Amazon Q. So those are kind of the big two parts inside of there. Or you can go into the aspect of you have some software engineers who know how to use APIs and have a general understanding of AI and machine learning, and go down the path of using machine learning APIs. So you can do like natural language processing, computer vision, recommendation engines, and go down that path, and then even generative AI to a certain degree. And then there's also this aspect of AutoML. So you have tabular data that's ready to go. You want to make predictions. You have a general understanding of what you're trying to classify or trying to make a regression on, and go down this path of building a model without having to really understand the data science aspects. You provided data and outputs a model and allows you to help faster deploy it. And then finally, let's say you have a very custom solution that nothing else can solve. No off-the-shelf product can solve. It's very custom to who you are and what you're trying to do as a business. Now you can start looking at building an AI and ML platform and going down this path of building these custom solutions and integrating them together to build out your larger AI problem or solving your AI problem effectively. Jumping first into this AI-enabled knowledge base. So this has kind of been one of those big things that have popped up in the world and everybody really wants to understand more about. This has to do a lot of it with RAG systems, dealing with agentic workflows, all that aspects. And so one of the big things here is building this knowledge base can be difficult at times, but instilling the right partner will help with building this effectively, and even utilizing the right frameworks and kind of nuances from the right LLMs, all that stuff, and even vector databases, how to properly manage your vector databases, how to retrieve from them effectively, all that stuff. To learn more about that, we luckily have a talk coming up in November. Michael Slater is going to be talking about agentic workflows in business and how this effectively has evolved our AI chatbots. So definitely come in for that talk. It's going to be very exciting for any individuals that's really interested in moving beyond your basic RAG implementation and actually exploring agentic workflows. This kind of moves us into this aspect of AI through Microsoft 365 Copilot, Google Gemini, and Amazon Q. So this is really great for help driving data-driven insights, kind of help improve your decision-making without implementing kind of larger architectures, being contextually aware based off of what's out there, some personalized assistance aspects with inside of email to understanding more about your data, enhanced efficiency and productivity, and accelerating content and communication. So like these are all major things that come out of these toolings. And luckily we have another talk coming up that week from Kevin Jourdain talking about how to effectively use these tools to build your enterprise and be more productive through this. So definitely stay tuned for that talk as well. That's coming up next month. So next is like the machine learning and AI APIs. So again, it's talking about the natural language processing, computer vision, and recommendation systems. These are just simple to use APIs to effectively empower your different AI use cases. So these are a really great start if you are more dev-centric and you have the technical talent. It's great to use these to effectively go faster with some of your solutions. It's just choosing the right use cases to make sure that they land with inside of the bounds of what these systems can actually do. And again, back to that aspect of where we talked about POCs, make sure to look at solving only 10 to 20 to 30% of the problem and build our smaller solutions, kind of microservice aspects, to build them together to solve the larger problem. So just kind of keep that in mind with, especially when dealing with these AI and ML APIs. And then AutoML implementation. So the biggest things that come out of this is like your efficiency and speed, your accessibility, optimization, and scalability. So the big things that for this is that AutoML kind of removes that aspect of needing a data science to come help with a lot of stuff. Say you have a data set of 100 different columns and you have 10 million rows of it. AutoML can really go in, take that, understand more about your data, pull and choose what data inputs are valid, do any pre-processing, transformation, cleaning, augmenting, feature engineering. Based off of that data, go out and search for the best model that's going to make the prediction on what you're trying to make either a classification or regression prediction on. And then it does hyperparameter tuning, which is just kind of turning the knobs to make sure that the model turns, but it produces effective results out of it. And then it evaluates it and says, hey, based off of your accuracy, precision, or recall, or that combination of those, to effectively say, hey, this is the best model based off of what we've seen. And then also a lot of these tools based on the cloud has really fast and efficient deployment strategies with these models themselves. So really great tool if you don't necessarily have the data science expertise in-house and you want to build stuff off of structured data sets that you have today. And then AI and ML platforms. So these are all major things within AI and ML platforms that are kind of good to understand. Devlin kind of called this out in his talk in the very beginning about implementation of a solution can be great, but the lack of properly maintaining or involving that solution can result in becoming a barrier for your business. And so AI and ML platforms really help to eliminate that aspect of it becoming a barrier. And even Andy called this out not too long ago in his talk as well about building a platform. So AI and ML platforms follow very similar pillars as platform engineering. It goes into that aspect of version control, CI/CD, cloud resource management, infrastructure as code, observability, and self-serve aspects. And so really utilizing those core pillars to help build your AI and ML platform will make you go even further. Outside of that, there's aspects with inside of scalability of your models and understanding how fast they can predict, and different types of design patterns with inside of AI and ML that kind of reinforce the effectiveness of AI and ML platforms themselves. And so when I say platforms, typically people think that we're building like Vertex AI or SageMaker. No, what we're doing is providing the necessary governance and barriers and enhancements and automation around those toolings to make it so it's more developer centric. So I can come in as a data scientist and develop a model, work with my machine learning engineer to get it deployed as fast as possible. More information about this is actually coming up in a talk that week as well. Sanat will be going out and talking about engineering scalable AI platforms and making sure that those strategies are focused around sustainability and reusability for long-term maintenance. So definitely keep your eye out for that talk, and I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the biggest things that is close to my heart when it comes to AI and ML and supporting it into the future. So after all of that, how does this kind of help drive organizational change with AI and all that? So the biggest things is looking at these key steps, leading your organization through this with AI. So it's kind of using those core words there of assess, build, engage, focus, create, and monitor. So you're really, from the assess perspective, you're assessing your readiness, evaluate your organization's current AI maturity, data capabilities, and readiness for change. Exactly what we talked about when you're building out your AI roadmap, utilizing the AI maturity to make sure that you focus and build that roadmap, which goes into the build, right? Building that strong AI roadmap, engaging with your leadership and stakeholders, making sure that it is aligned with how they see the business going. And then moving into that aspect of focus on high impact use cases. And then finally creating an AI first culture, and then monitoring that progress of everything before and adapting and making sure that you're willing to ebb and flow based off of the various changes that occur with inside of your business, individuals themselves, and how to effectively alleviate any sort of difficulties that may come along with that. And this kind of helps ensure that the necessary long-term success is attainable. So big things to kind of key reminders to remember out of this. AI is not just a technology change, but it's a cultural and operational shift. Leaders must drive AI adoption and create an environment for employees to embrace this innovation. And AI can deliver immediate value by focusing on these high impact areas while laying the foundation for long-term transformations. And that just kind of goes alongside with your platform building and ensuring that. And then finally, building an AI first culture really ensures sustained innovation and competitiveness inside your business. So big things to kind of keep in mind for as you try to drive that organizational change with utilizing AI or having AI be part of it. Then navigating data challenges at scale. So this is kind of one of the biggest things. And any AI person or machine learning person that tells you that data doesn't matter probably doesn't understand the core aspects of machine learning and AI. Data is probably the number one hardest problem in any machine learning and AI system. It should be solely focused on tremendously. So inside of there are these kind of 4 big things to kind of keep in mind. Sure, your data quality is really great. Otherwise, you can't build any sort of robust data pipelines to sustain those machine learning systems. So having even predecessor data pipelines to make sure that cleaning and processing of the data is very strong. Implement strong governance, making sure that you can control that data governance and ensure compliance and security depending on how strict your compliance requirements are. And then invest in scalable infrastructure. So if your distributed systems cannot handle the data scaling that is needed to sustain these machine learning problems, then you're kind of losing out on what you actually can do. So making sure that you have sustainable and scalable infrastructure is very key. And then focus on security, making sure that your data is not leaked in any shape, form, or manner. So making sure those are all key things to keep in mind. And so this kind of brings me into the last talk that I'm gonna throw at you guys as well. And it's next week's talk, and it's talked about the aspects of real-time data and how to do it effectively. And so this is kind of dealing with that high-quality data and making sure that you effectively have it, and it's very crucial for your organization. But right now, a lot of organizations are dealing with the aspect of siloed data, or slow batch processes and complex or opaque integrations. And a lot of this really hinders your system's ability to provide value extraction. So inside of this talk, really explores event-driven architectures, things like Confluent, Apache Kafka, and how to address these various issues, and highlighting kind of common pitfalls and key principles for success, and a lot of real-world examples of effective real-time data solutions. So definitely keep your eye out for this talk that's coming next week. And then finally, hopefully I left enough time here. I think I sped through this pretty quickly, but questions?
Would you suggest for smaller companies and / dev teams to consider sticking with a single solution partner or multiple partner solutions?
Depends on your use case. I'd probably ask a couple more questions to that. Are you looking to utilize for model development, or is it a very unique case for doing something off the shelf? If it's model development, it really depends. I've seen it in both cases where individuals will use things like Databricks in combination with Dataiku. Dataiku is a kind of one-stop shop platform where you can go in and build models, do data transformations, build pipelines, you name it. Really effective tool, and then kind of serve it up on AWS, GCP, and Azure platforms. And then they would also do something very similar with Databricks itself and go down that path. Same with Snowflake. I've seen a lot of different implementations and combinations of stuff. It just really depends on like what you're trying to solve. So if you're trying to solve back to the aspect of something very specific, right now, I think the market is way oversaturated with a lot of different solutions claiming that they'll solve all your problems. And so you have to be kind of careful with them. One of our clients, we've targeted a couple different solutions to kind of effectively solve a wide range of problems that they have. But eventually what will happen is some of those platforms will either conform together or they'll overlap in functionality. And so eventually we'll probably move to one platform over another. And it's kind of a waiting game on that aspect. But I think that if one solution provides you one functionality out of your platform and another solution provides you another functionality out of that platform, it's okay to go with both until you start to see the overlap, and kind of use that as a way to strategize and become kind of say like the key stakeholder to say, okay, if your platform overtakes this functionality, we'll switch over to here. And that's kind of one of the big things that help drive some of those companies to be more aggressive in ensuring that they hear your voice as to what you want developed. And then also making sure that they serve you properly and having sustainable solutions as well. So I hate to take the consultant way out and say it depends, but it honestly depends.
What are the key qualities of a problem amenable to an AI solution?
Key qualities that are amenable to an AI solution. So the biggest thing I would say is that if it is a problem that takes a tremendous amount of manual effort to implement or do some sort of manual entry of something, or for example, scanning of documents and reading and pulling key aspects out of those documents and providing them as insights, something that just takes a lot of human effort that is relatively simplistic in execution. So that's typically kind of the notion that we take when looking at different types of use cases and like what criteria that they meet in that aspect. So those are good ways to start looking at what's out there. We've also seen companies come up with like kind of hackathons or have like a centralized place where people can submit their ideas. And then we take those ideas and run it through the gauntlet with understanding the high like value use cases questions and say, how does this relate back to everything? And so really effectively using that framework is kind of one of the most important things. Generating ideas out of your business is not too terribly difficult as long as you're listening to them. Taking what they say and then effectively applying it through that framework will help you decide which one of these should we actually implement. If you want to get in touch with me, I'll put this last slide out here. This is my LinkedIn, or reach out to me at scott.poulin@improving.com. And I appreciate everybody for coming to come listen to my talk.
Yes, thank you all. Hope to see you all tomorrow and next week. Have a great one, everyone.